space was quiet, too quiet. Not the natural quiet of the void, but the charged, suffocating silence before a storm breaks. Out beyond the crimson swirl of the Caltras Nebula, 1,000 alien warships floated in perfect formation. Their hulls gleamed in the light of a dying star, their weapons arrays crackling with restrained power. This was supposed to be a show of force. High Marshal Krythak of the Valkyrie Dominion stood at the viewport of his flagship, his thin, segmented mandibles clicking in irritation. His fleet was the largest the Dominion had ever assembled, a fleet so vast it could turn planets into slag within hours. Every race in this quadrant knew the price of rebellion. And now, the newest species to crawl out of its cradle, humanity, would learn as well. Only, they hadn't come. No desperate envoys. No surrender transmissions. No armada to challenge his might. Instead, long-range sensors had picked up something strange, something that made every officer on Krythak's bridge pause when the readings first appeared. A single ship. Not a swarm, not a fleet. Just one vessel, cutting through the void, heading straight toward them without hesitation. Confirm again, Krythak rasped, his 4 black eyes narrowing. One vessel? Yes, High Marshal, the sensor officer replied, his voice tense. Configuration does not match any known warship class. It is large, but. But what? Krythak snapped. But its energy signature is wrong. Too concentrated. Too dense. It reads as if its entire hull is one massive reactor. Krythak felt his carapace tighten. A single ship approaching the might of the Dominion's grand fleet was not bravery. It was either madness or a message. Earth's Gambit. Aboard the USS Retribution, Captain Nathan Cole stood in the command pit, his hands clasped tightly behind his back. The deck beneath him vibrated softly as the ship's main reactor cycled to full output, flooding the vessel with power. He could feel every eye on him, from the bridge officers to the Marines silently waiting at their stations. There was fear here, yes, but something else ran under it, resolve. Status, he asked calmly. Engines at full, Lieutenant Sarah Moreno replied, her fingers dancing across the navigation console. We'll breach visual range in 2 minutes. Weapons are green across the board. Good, Nathan said. He allowed himself a slow breath. This mission was madness. Every tactical model predicted annihilation unless the Retribution performed exactly as designed. The Dominion had made its mistake when it assumed Earth would fight fair. Comms, Nathan said, turning toward his communications officer. Send the final broadcast. Aye, Captain. Across the stars, a simple message was transmitted toward the Valkyrie fleet. This is Captain Nathan Cole of the United Terran Navy. You have attacked our colonies, slaughtered our civilians, and declared war on Earth. This is your one chance to withdraw. Refuse, and we will answer in full. No flowery speeches. No pleas for peace. Just a cold warning. Nathan knew they would laugh. They always laughed. The mockery. On Krythak's bridge, laughter indeed rippled through the ranks. One ship, the weapons master scoffed. They dare challenge us with a single ship? Krythak raised a claw for silence, though his mandibles curled in a cruel grin. Let them come closer. I wish to see this human captain before I crush his vessel like an insect beneath my claws. He gestured toward the tactical display, where the lone ship grew larger by the second. Its silhouette was strange, a narrow, blade-like hull with no visible hangar bays, no massive gun batteries. It is not even heavily armed, one of the officers muttered. Their kind is pathetic. Krythak said nothing. But somewhere deep inside, a sliver of unease pressed against his pride. Closing the distance. The Retribution entered visual range, her black hull gleaming like obsidian under the starlight. The ship bore no markings except the insignia of the United Terran Navy, a simple silver star on her prow. Nathan stared at the screen as the enemy fleet unfolded before him, a wall of steel and firepower stretching across half a planetary orbit. All stations, he said quietly. Final battle readiness. Yes, sir. The crew moved as one, a silent, drilled machine. Marines strapped in. Reactor output climbed to dangerous levels. The ship's AI, Helix, engaged targeting protocols, its synthetic voice calm and eerily soothing. Helix, Captain, primary weapon charge will reach full capacity in 90 seconds. Nathan nodded. Good. Let's make sure the galaxy remembers this day. The first strike. Krythak's fleet opened fire first. Beams of coherent energy lanced across the void, a tidal wave of plasma and particle fire converging on the lone Terran ship. But the Retribution did not dodge. Instead, her hull shimmered as layers of energy shields bloomed to life, absorbing the incoming fire with blinding radiance. The ship cut through the barrage, her prow glowing as if a second sun had been born within her core. On Krythak's bridge, the officers stopped laughing. What are they doing? One asked, fear creeping into his tone. Krythak leaned closer to the viewport. The human ship was no longer merely approaching. It was charging. The blade unleashed. Helix, Nathan said, his voice like steel. Fire when ready. Helix, primary weapon at full capacity. Firing solution locked. The Retribution's hull split open along its spine, revealing a massive energy projector running the entire length of the ship. And then, the void screamed. A beam of pure annihilation erupted from the ship's core, a lance of white-hot power that tore through space itself. It sliced across the formation of the Valkyrie fleet, ripping through shields, hulls, and reactors as if they were paper. Entire capital ships vanished in incandescent explosions. The Dominion's perfect wall of warships shattered in a single, deafening moment. Krythak staggered back from the viewport, his mandibles frozen. In less than 10 seconds, a third of his fleet was gone. Not damaged, gone. That is not a warship, his weapons master whispered. That is an extinction engine. Krythak's claws curled into fists. Signal the fleet, he hissed. All ships, converge. Kill that vessel before it fires again. But deep in his mind, a single terrible question gnawed at him. Why would the humans build such a thing and send only one? The stars lit with fire. Dozens of Valkyrie warships spiraled out of formation, their hulls torn open, reactors venting blue-white plasma. The destruction left behind by the Retribution's first shot wasn't just damage, it was carnage. Whole wings of attack craft vanished in the blinding beam, their pilots not even given the dignity of an ejection. Captain Nathan Cole didn't flinch. He couldn't afford to. Helix, Nathan said, his voice calm but cold, begin rapid recharge of the primary weapon. Helix, affirmative. Estimated recharge, 90 seconds. 90 seconds. That was all they had before the Dominion realized how to adapt if they could adapt. All batteries, Nathan ordered, switch to secondary fire mode. Prioritize cruiser-class ships. I want their command net crippled before we fire again. Aye, Captain. The Retribution came alive, her secondary gun arrays spitting lances of magnetically accelerated tungsten slugs. The kinetic rounds tore through Valkyrie frigates like paper, smashing through shields and detonating their reactor cores. Valkyrie desperation. On the Dominion flagship, chaos reigned. Grand Fleet reporting catastrophic losses, the tactical officer shouted. 77 ships destroyed, 40 more disabled. Krythak's mandibles clicked furiously as he gripped the railing. Form a perimeter. Surround that ship. Do not allow it another clear shot. High Marshal, another officer cried, our shields are failing under its secondary fire. It is targeting our command ships deliberately. Of course it was. Krythak's black eyes narrowed. This was no random act of defiance, this was war doctrine. The humans weren't here to posture. They were here to decapitate his fleet. Then we close the net. Krythak roared. All forward capital ships, ram it if you must. That vessel must not fire again. Inside the beast. The bridge of the Retribution was silent save for the low thrum of her reactor. Red warning lights flashed as enemy fire pounded against the ship's shields, each impact reverberating through the deck like a giant hammer striking steel. Shields at 70%, shouted Chief Engineer Mason Briggs over the comm. If they keep this up, we won't make it to another shot. Nathan didn't look up. His eyes were locked on the tactical display, watching the enemy close in like a tightening fist. "We'll make it," he said flatly. "We have to." "Captain," Lieutenant Sarah Moreno called from navigation, "they're trying to flank us." Vector approach from port and starboard simultaneously. "Helix," Nathan said, "rotate ship 40 degrees starboard and maintain forward momentum. Bring ventral cannons online. Let's remind them why we built this ship." Helix, maneuver executed. Ventral cannons hot. The Retribution rolled gracefully in the void, her underbelly revealing a row of hidden gunports. They opened in unison, releasing a storm of hypervelocity plasma bolts that shredded the approaching Valkyrie frigates before they could close the gap. The cost of defiance. But the Valkyrie were not without cunning. 3 of their destroyers broke formation and dove straight into the Terran ship's path, dumping every torpedo they had. The space ahead of the Retribution lit with explosions, a deadly curtain of fire. "Brace!" Nathan barked. The ship plunged through the detonations, her shields flaring white-hot. Consoles sparked on the bridge, smoke filling the air. "Shields down to 40%. Mason shouted. "Another volley like that and we're naked." Nathan's jaw tightened. "Helix, status of the main gun?" "Helix, 75% charge. 60 seconds to full. Too slow." He glanced around the bridge, meeting the eyes of his crew, men and women who had volunteered for what was, by every metric, a suicide mission. He saw fear there, yes, but no hesitation. "Helm," Nathan said, "punch us straight through their formation. All power to forward shields. If they want to box us in, let's tear through the box." Through fire. The Retribution surged forward, plowing through the heart of the Valkyrie fleet like a spear through flesh. Her prow slammed into a destroyer, ripping it clean in half. Missile salvos detonated on either side, bathing the void in fire. Inside the bridge, the crew were thrown against their harnesses. Warning klaxons screamed. "Hull breach on decks 11 through 13. Mason called. Automated bulkhead sealed, no decompression spread. Nathan gritted his teeth. "Keep going." The tactical display showed dozens of Valkyrie ships converging from all sides. But each second they survived brought them closer to the moment that would change the battle and perhaps the war. The second shot. "Helix," Nathan said, his voice low, "status?" "Helix, primary weapon charged. Firing solution locked. Recommend immediate discharge for maximum effect." "Do it." The spine of the Retribution split open again, the terrible light within gathering strength until it became unbearable to look at. And then the second shot came. The beam scythed through the void, this time sweeping laterally across the fleet. Dozens of Valkyrie ships were caught in its path, their hulls vaporizing before they could even scream. The Dominion formation shattered completely, the survivors scattering in a blind panic. The silence after. For a moment, space was quiet again. The only thing left were burning hulks and drifting debris, and one human ship, scarred but still alive. "Status report," Nathan said. "Shields at 15%, Mason replied grimly. "Hull integrity holding. Reactor stable, barely." Sarah Moreno exhaled a shaky breath. "Sir, they're retreating." On the display, the surviving Valkyrie ships were pulling back, their once perfect formation broken into chaos. Nathan stared at the screen, his expression unreadable. They had won, at least for now. But this was only the beginning. "Helix," Nathan said quietly, "record everything. Every second. Send a burst transmission to Earth Command. The galaxy needs to see this." "Helix, transmission prepared." Nathan looked out at the burning wreckage of the Dominion fleet, his jaw set like iron. "Let them know," he said softly, "that Earth has answered." On the flagship. Far away, aboard the Dominion flagship, Krythak stood in silence. Around him, the bridge crew trembled. Half his fleet gone. From a single ship. He felt something alien stir in his chest, something the Valkyrie did not feel often. Fear. he turned slowly to his officers. "Signal the Dominion Council," he said. "Tell them, the humans have built a warship that cannot be allowed to exist." His black eyes fixed on the lone Terran ship as it turned slowly in the void, her prow aimed like a dagger at what remained of his fleet. "This is no victory for them," Krythak hissed. "This is an opening act. They have shown us their weapon. Now we will build one better." But even as he spoke, a whisper in the back of his mind asked the question that would haunt him for many cycles to come. If this was only one ship, how many more were waiting? The battle should have been over. But Nathan Cole knew better. The Retribution drifted through the debris field, her scarred hull glowing red from residual heat. The stars were littered with the burning wrecks of Valkyrie warships, their twisted remains glinting like dying embers. But the Dominion wouldn't stop here. "Captain," Sarah Moreno said quietly, "long-range sensors show multiple signatures entering system perimeter. Looks like reinforcements." Nathan's jaw clenched. He had expected this. "How many?" he asked. Sarah hesitated before answering. "All of them. The second wave." Moments later, the void rippled with the arrival of a hyperspace fleet. Valkyrie ships poured into real space dreadnoughts, cruisers, entire carrier groups. More than triple the size of the original fleet Nathan had just obliterated. On the flagship of this new armada, High Marshal Krythak watched the lone human ship appear on his tactical display. This time, he growled, "We end this." He would not underestimate them again. Every ship in his fleet was ordered to keep maximum spacing between vessels, shields at full, and focus all fire on the Terran warship. The calm before. On the bridge of the Retribution, the crew sat in tense silence. They all knew what was coming. "Shields at 15%, Mason reported. Hull stress at critical points along the keel. If they swarm us now, we won't last." Nathan stood at the center of the bridge, staring at the tactical display as the massive Valkyrie armada spread out before them. "We won't outgun them," Sarah said softly. "No," Nathan replied, his voice low but steady. "But we can still outthink them." He turned to Helix. "Prepare the failsafe." "Helix, Captain, activating the failsafe will overload our primary reactor. The ship will not survive." Nathan's lips pressed into a thin line. "I know." The crew froze. "Sir," Sarah said, "are you saying we?" "I'm saying," Nathan interrupted, "that we were never supposed to come back from this mission. We were supposed to send a message." And sometimes, he glanced at the burning wreckage outside the viewport. The only way to make them listen is to speak louder. The final stand. "Helm," Nathan said, "bring us to maximum acceleration. Head straight for the center of their formation." "Aye, Captain." The Retribution roared to life, engines flaring as she cut through the void, a lone spear charging a tidal wave of enemy fire. Valkyrie cannons opened up in unison, saturating space with deadly energy. Shields collapsed. Hull plates buckled. Decks shuddered as compartments vented into space, but still the ship pushed forward. "Captain," Mason shouted, "we're taking catastrophic damage." Nathan didn't look back. "Helix, status of the failsafe?" "Helix, overload sequence primed. Awaiting final command." Nathan nodded once. "Helm, bring us to their flagship." Face to face. Krythak watched in grim silence as the lone Terran ship tore through his formation, ignoring every shot, every missile. It was coming for him. "Bring all firepower to bear," he roared. His fleet obeyed. The void was lit with constant fire, but the Terran warship did not falter. It was bleeding, yes, molten hull plating trailing behind like the tail of a comet, but it did not stop. It was coming for him. The message. On the bridge of the Retribution, Nathan stood tall, his hand hovering over the console. "This is Captain Nathan Cole of the USS Retribution," he said, recording his final transmission. His voice was calm, steady, absolute. "To the Valkyrie Dominion, and to every race watching, you have seen what one Terran warship can do. You have seen that Earth will not kneel. You have one choice: leave humanity in peace, or face what comes next. He glanced at Sarah and Mason, who met his eyes with grim resolve. They knew what he was about to do. They were ready. Helix, Nathan said, execute the failsafe. Helix, acknowledged. Reactor overload initiated. The light. The Retribution's core went white-hot, brighter than a newborn star. The ship plunged straight toward Krythak's flagship, engines screaming as if the vessel itself was roaring in defiance. And then, in a single impossible moment, the reactor detonated. The explosion was not like the first shots. This was annihilation. A supernova of controlled energy ripped outward, consuming everything within thousands of kilometers. Valkyrie ships vanished in the expanding sphere of light, reduced to dust before their crews could even cry out. When the light faded, there was silence. No Dominion fleet. No Terran ship. Just a glowing field of debris and a signal, repeating over every channel in the system. Earth does not kneel. The aftermath. Weeks later, in the War Council chambers of the Valkyrie Dominion, Krythak stood before the ruling caste. His carapace was cracked, his body scarred from the blast. He had barely survived aboard a distant command relay ship. The humans, one of the counselors hissed, have destroyed 2 full fleets. Their single ship inflicted more damage than any war we have ever fought. What do you propose, High Marshal? Krythak's mandibles clicked once, slowly. I propose, we do not fight them again. The council chamber went silent. They have shown us what they can build, Krythak continued. And if one vessel can make a war, imagine what they will build next. The legacy. Back on Earth, Nathan Cole's name was etched into history. The Retribution became more than a ship, it became a symbol. Every species in the galaxy saw the message, saw what one Terran vessel could do when driven to the edge. And in the dark halls of power, where wars were planned and empires decided the fates of lesser worlds, a single thought now haunted them all. If this was only the first, what happens when Earth sends a fleet?